Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Town Council Special Meeting of May 30th. It is currently 4:18 p.m. and we're opening the meeting. I would ask that we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Things are much nicer.
They are.
Okay, at this time, I would ask that we take a couple minutes as a moment of silence. Thank you. I need to announce that this meeting is being recorded by LCAT and ask if anyone in the audience is recording. Seeing none, we will continue right on. So this meeting is to interview candidates for the town manager's position. We do have a list of questions that was created. Thank you, Connor, much appreciated. Would we like to go through and divvy the questions up? Who's going to ask what? Who would like to start?
Invite the welcome the candidate. Start with the first question.
So I'll take question one. Would anyone like question two?
I'll do two.
Or do you want to
Yeah, then I would just like go
Yeah,
around.
yeah.
It seems easier.
go to the right? Go right.
All right, so Matt would be next.
All
Yep.
three.
Kathy,
Makes me
That's a
four.
good one.
Anna. Mike will be 5. Connor 6.
I'm seven.
Marilyn, yep. I'm 8. 9. Matt will be 10. 13.
You don't have
15.
jealous.
15.
You're 15.
I'm 15. You're 16.
Best for last, huh? Nice.
You
Right.
can handle it.
Try.
Okay.
So based on number 15, both applicants are from Massachusetts. I'm probably just going to
Didn't you have another question?
adjust it slightly.
Mhm.
Oh, I've got many questions.
You're out. I like that.
Allergies. So if you get to your question and you're not happy with it or whatever, or you have a different question you'd like to ask, that's fine. The only thing I would ask is that you ask the same question of both candidates. That way there you compare apples to apples.
Now, if there is a desire to direct the question by another counselor or ask something, we can just,
Yeah, if we want to do a follow-up or anything like that,
Yes.
like we've done in the past,
got it.
that's no problem at all.
Whoops.
So we have each candidate for roughly 45 minutes. So my thought is to bring them in, have them speak a little bit with regards to themselves, their history, like an introduction. Then we'll bring it back to the council. We'll go through the questions. And then at the end, we'll give them a couple of minutes as a final time to close out and say anything that they'd like to at the end. Does that work for everyone? Is there any
Yes.
thoughts on it?
That's like a.
We have 6 minutes.
Sure.
Me.
I'm good. My chest
I did
is
it.
You taking anything for it? Like,
everything. And then the kitchen sink and
Is
it allergies or do you have like a?
I think it's allergies that
sure-
dropped into my
I sure
chest.
Oh,
hope
yeah,
it's
but that's the
allergies.
dangerous part.
Yeah, it's,
My cousin just wrote, he's coming to visit. He's on his second time with COVID in the last couple of
Oh, my
weeks.
gosh.
So I don't know.
Long Meadow Town Council gets COVID.
no.
Can't get COVID.
If you don't test.
Jeannie, do you have anything you'd like to put in to start before we get going?
No, I don't.
Questions? Keep it on time, right?
I think you have to keep it on time. And I was gonna say, there was some discussion about if you seem like you can start earlier than 5:30 and the candidates here. I wouldn't suggest that because it's listed on the agenda as 5:30 for the second candidate.
Right.
And then you're gonna deliberate after, correct?
Sure.
Okay.
So as of now, I don't believe we have any of the background checks are not available yet.
How long does that typically take?
Do you mind if I
Yes, Joan.
put it on Joan?
I did order both of them. It's really up to the candidate to begin it. And so it gets texted to, the link gets texted to them. They start to fill out and then it goes to the background check company and they start it. So if they don't initiate it, it'll never be complete, but if it, we have one in process.
You just have one in process?
There's one that's not started.
Are we able to know why the third individual withdrew? Did he state a reason or? It's a curious question.
That he was not able.
Fair enough. Phone says 4:26.
I'm just thinking, after we do both interviews, I mean, we can have a small discussion or whatever, but I'm thinking that we should look to schedule another meeting so that we have all the information and then vote at the other meeting. Does that work for everyone?
Once we have the backgrounds.
Yeah, we
Right.
really can't until the backgrounds are in.
Sure.
You can extend an offer with.
Pending.
With the passing of a background check, which would give you the out to say if that background check does not pass, so we withdraw the offer of employment.
That could work too, depending on how we feel at the end of the.
Yeah, if we
Most
feel
people
strongly.
Don't want to go through the whole process of filling out, all the information needed for background check. So, but I can understand why this would be an exception.
Camera's rolling.
Camera's rolling. We got like 2 minutes.
I don't know if you want to go over the process of how you solicited for candidates for the people at home.
Public, just review
Sure.
how we've gotten to this point.
So we, through our HR department, we advertised for the position through the MMA on the town's website. We received multiple resumes in the mail, interest on the position. We've held 2 meetings or 3 meetings, at least 2 meetings, 2 sessions to narrow the candidates down. We did narrow it down to 3 finalists. We did receive word at the end of last week that one of the finalists, although submitted his resume and with good intentions and all, is not able to continue on with the process. So we have 2 finalists at the moment, of which we're going to be interviewing in 1 minute, 30 seconds.
Thank you.
for that.
Oh, look at that. It's 4:30.
Okay,
I would ask him to come in. Your clock doesn't say the same,
It's
Mine does.
4:29.
but by the time he sits down and
Oh,
introduces himself,
Hi, Greg.
hi, Greg.
Afternoon.
good afternoon, welcome.
Just wanted to brought my office so you guys would recognize me.
We do appreciate that.
The bottle.
It's in there. I guess, does everybody, you guys all have resumes and don't need anything?
We do.
Just have some notes just to make sure I cover everything I want to cover.
So the way the process is going to work is I'm going to give you a few minutes. Please explain why you're interested in the position, some history on yourself, anything that you'd like to open, to let the council know. Then we'll bring it to the council. We'll start with myself and work to my right with a series of questions for you.
Okay.
And then at the very end, I will ask you to do a closing statement. So we will start.
All right.
The floor is yours.
Great. Well, first of all, obviously, yep.
We probably should start with your name. Tom Christensen.
Tom Christensen, 135 Sanford Street, East Long Meadow, Mass, for the record. First, I just want to say thank you, obviously, for having me here this afternoon. I can't tell you how much pride and humility I feel just sitting here. So thank you very much. I look forward to a good back and forth. Like I said, my name's Tom. I grew up here in East Long Meadow. Went through school here. Left after college to see the world, and took a job opportunity in New Jersey. Worked for an engineering firm down there for a bit. And met my wife, and obviously we both wanted to make our way back here. So we started that journey, wound up in Boston, Holden, and then finally back home. I worked for DPW for 5 years as the deputy superintendent. Got a lot done, did a lot of projects, was very proud of my time there. Met a lot of obviously great people that I had a chance to work with and be on committees with. I'm just excited to be home, and I'm sort of privileged to actually get to make a difference in my hometown. A long time ago, I decided that public service was for me. That was the route I was going to go. And furthered by Mary asking me to be her deputy and sit in that office and really come up with strong ways to just further the town. And this is obviously, you all live here, this is an amazing community, a lot of attributes, a lot of wonderful people. And I'm looking forward to keeping up the hard work and seeing what we can do in the future.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to start with your question.
Okay.
Drink up.
Yeah.
Yes, you might need some water first. So what do you see as the greatest challenge East Long Meadow faces in the near future? And how do you think you can help or fix the issues?
I see two. One, only because of my background and how much knowledge I have about it. Our infrastructure is getting to a point where we're not going to be able to manage it. Not just the roads, which everybody sees, but everything else underneath. So I think that starts with a little bit more of an aggressive capital outlay. I think we have to start investing in this stuff. I feel we have a tendency to push these things off because we can't afford them at the time, but we're getting to a point where we can't afford not to. And the second one is communication with the public. I'm sort of puzzled sometimes about, and maybe it's just a lack of an effort on our part, but it seems like we put out a lot of information and we go the extra mile to let people know what's going on. And then I'm sort of flabbergasted by how much people don't know or didn't understand, so I don't know if that's our fault as town officials and not hitting the right buttons or hitting the right talking points, or I feel like there's a lot of people get upset because they don't know about things. And it seems to me that in our form of government with a meeting every month, that shouldn't be the case. And with all the department heads and all the Twitter and the Facebook and I just feel like the community as a whole could be more involved and informed, and that could solve some issues before they actually happen.
So the second part of that question was, how do you go about helping with that?
Okay. So I think, well, for the capital piece or for the infrastructure piece, I guess we have to make an effort to increase the funding that we put out towards capital. Communication, I've started talking with Ryan a little bit about, our IT director, about different ways we can get this information out. And there's podcasts going on now with different things, and putting stuff in the paper gets a little bit expensive and tedious. And I think if I could make an effort to, and I think Mary, well, she's mentioned it to me because, we shared an office, to have some sort of community events and have people come and just ask questions, or if they want to know things, just sort of candidly have a discussion about things that they're worried about, or things that they want to talk about, or things they don't know about. And I picture that happening with one or multiple department heads at the same time, so that it can be specific or global. So that's sort of what I'm envisioning. I'd like to, because we live in town, there's the questions that happen that maybe it's not really an appropriate place to explain certain things. You always try to take the time and do it, but I feel like we could get more information. We could do a better job of getting information to people before they feel they're being blindsided by something they did not see coming.
Thank you.
Yep.
I have the next question, Tom.
Okay.
Could you please give us your 30-day, 60-day, and 90-day entry plan as you assume the role of town manager?
Okay. Well, 30-day, I guess, walk down the hall. Not even the hall, just walk down the office. No, I think I've sort of started this when I became deputy, to get around to the department heads and the boards and commissions, and sort of get a feel for what everybody's thinking in terms of how things are going. So I'd like to keep that going right away. Just to, I had the conversation, I guess, already, but now it would be in a different role. And so I wonder what other information I would get at that point. 60-day, I would like to take a much longer look at the budget. I feel like May was like a whirlwind with capital. I spent a lot of time on the capital stuff, and while I was with Mary in all the meetings and at all financial oversight, I didn't get to drill down into, you've seen all the line items. It's hard to find time to drill down into those line items. So I'd like to see where we can sort of maybe cut a little fat. And then a 90-day, I'd like to have a department head meeting and kind of get everybody on the same page for some of these bigger projects that are coming down the pike, because it's going to take a lot of collaboration, I feel, in the next year or two, depending on how certain votes go, to kind of get everybody on board and sort of pushing the ball in the same direction. So that's sort of how I see the first 90 days, other than showing up and doing everything I've been doing for the last 9 months. Those are some of my personal goals from that chair.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Describe how you will approach fostering an environment of diversity, equity, and true inclusion, both within the governmental structure and in the community.
Read that one more time, just so I don't miss any of the points.
Gotcha. Describe how you will approach fostering an environment of diversity, equity, and true inclusion, both within the governmental structure and in the community.
In a word, respect. That's how I live my life. That's how I was brought up. Everybody has something to say, and they deserve the time to say it. There's no bias for me on anything. There's no preconceived notions. I strive to be as objective as they come, because I feel like in my position as a public official, I can't be any other way. I serve everyone, right? I've served the entire community, and that is a diverse community. So if I'm doing my job correctly, I'm doing the same for everyone, no matter what. That's how I think. And so with that attitude, sort of the lead from the front attitude, that's the kind of attitude that I want our department heads to have, our staff to have. That's the attitude I will portray out with my wife and my kids. That's how I think I can do that from the front. Lead by example.
Good. Hi, Tom.
Hello.
So we need a strong leader and a strong manager. Can you describe for us how you will do both?
Yes. I'm like I said, I don't want to sound like a broken record. I like to lead from the front. I like to show up early. I like to stay late. I like to work hard. And I feel like, at least in my personal experience, when I see that from somebody that I'm following, it makes me want to do the same thing. I'm very steadfast in my convictions. I like to have people doing that as well, right? So everybody's got the way they do things, but as a team, we all have something to give, and we all have to do it together. I just think from my spot, I think most people would tell you that I'm a very honest person, forthright. I work hard, and I don't expect anything more from anybody else. You show up, you work hard, and you go home.
Thanks.
Mike, you're up.
Okay. I was looking at a little bit different way to phrase the question, but I'm sure this is going to work. And the question is, describe how you will foster a team working from and towards the same goals.
Yeah, just professional respect and courtesy. Thankfully, or luckily, we have an amazing, talented group of people that work for this town. And I've already sort of developed relationships with nearly everyone in the working community. I think that if you're respectful with people and honest, I think that comes back to you tenfold, really. As a manager, as a leader, that's how I like to be respectful of the skills and the talent that people have around me, because I don't know everything, right? I certainly maybe sometimes claim to, but there are gifts to be given by everybody that works here. And if you're being a good manager, you're using all those gifts to put the whole thing together. So that's how I feel about that.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Hi, Tom.
Hi, Connor.
This one's a two-part question.
Okay.
How do you prefer to receive direction from the town council? And then how do you keep the town council informed?
Again, that would be a collaboration. However, how I would keep you informed was if it was something I knew you needed to know right away, I would tell you right away. Whether after we have the conversation, if people prefer texting or phone calls or email, that would be, you guys have to be informed about what's going on. And I think that conversation will include where that line is and what you need to know and what you don't need to know. People are different in terms of, do you need to know that there was a water break last night? Maybe. If it was on your road, you'd probably know about it. But if the DPW director knows, that's good enough. So I think the conversation between all of us would be, how do you want your information? I'll do it. I can do it all. As far as getting information from you, again, the door's open. I'll take it however you guys decide you want to do it. It might be a little easier if it comes through the president of the council. But if I get an email outside of that, I'm probably going to give it its just due regardless. So I think that would be part of the 30, 60, 90-day plan is for us to kind of figure out how we want to do that and what works best for everybody. Because it doesn't make a difference to me as long as we're exchanging the information. Was there a second part or did I get them both?
You got them.
Okay.
Hi, Tom.
Hi.
Describe a positive community endeavor you initiated or facilitated. Why was it positive? What was your role and your takeaways?
Just one? Well, I guess because of the outcome, one of my favorites was the grant for the TIP project. There was obviously the roads are in some need of upgrades and so do all of our signals. And, like I said, the infrastructure is aging. And so we spent a lot of time, myself and I had hired VHB to do some of the more technical design work. But putting that grant together through the Mass DOT portal, sort of coming up with what we wanted to do and what it was going to cost us. And then obviously the outcome of that was, an initial investment of $500,000 to get a grant of about $8 million to do this whole corridor. And from our department at the time, DPW, knowing how frustrated everybody was with the road conditions and how it was hard to get funding and, what were we going to do to try to keep up? Even though we still have to wait a few years to have it all come to fruition. I was sort of proud of the fact that we pulled that all together and were selected to be on that tip.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go just the opposite with that one.
Okay.
So describe a negative community endeavor you initiated or facilitated, and why was it negative, and what was your role or takeaways from it?
Negative. Stumper. You'd think I'd messed up.
Could I just jump in
I mean,
and say,
good,
I hear what you're saying as we're looking at the question now, maybe we should have presented it differently, but how about an endeavor, a community endeavor that didn't have the outcome you had hoped it would have?
Oh.
Does that, would
That
that work?
works.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Just for you.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes when you work hard on a project, the outcome is not what you wanted it to be. And I think, I guess I'm having a trouble pinpointing something specific. But when you work in the DPW, most endeavors are not looked upon too kindly. As in, we didn't get too many pats on the back as we were performing all our work. Whether it was, why'd you pave my street? Now everyone drives too fast, or which is my favorite. I guess I'm stumped on this one. I guess it's difficult to. Yes, Mike, help.
I specifically remember one endeavor where we had a resident from town that was denied services because of a vendor, one of our vendors in town that supplies a service without naming that vendor.
Yep.
We got vendors that supply cable. We have gas and electricity. And they were denied and you interjected. So it was a negative that you turned into a positive because that resident was not left without services. Are you familiar with that?
I don't think I was fully in the door at DPW, but I do remember talking about it. And yes, that situation was, well, it was sort of solved by both parties in the end. Yeah.
Well, you worked your way through it. The residents were provided services. So the outcome was what the town would expect.
Yeah. I guess when I'm laying in bed tonight and I'm like, which question did I get wrong? It's the one that makes you think of anything negative I did.
Call him up.
We'll move on to the next question.
That's me. Okay, in one word, what adjective would you use to describe yourself as a town manager? And of course, then explain why.
Well, I guess I already used it, so I'll have to think of another one, but steadfast, I guess resolute is a synonym of that. We can use that. I don't get pushed off the ball too often. I am who I am, and that's all right. And I do that every day. I do it at home. I do it at work. So in that respect, I'm unwavering. Not that I expect everyone to do everything my way, but my convictions aren't going to be changed. My constitution will not be changed. I am who I am, and that's how I am as a leader. There won't be a situation where I act differently with a particular person on a particular question because of who they are or where they asked it. The answer is always going to be the same. It'll be objective. It will be honest. That's me. Write down.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, so this is kind of a two-part question, but I'll both. What is your approach to finance and budgeting? And then what are your thoughts and impressions about our recently adopted FY24 budget?
My thoughts on financing and budget are sort of conservative. Wherever I've been, whether it was DPW or the manager's office, I try to think about every single dollar because every single dollar matters to everyone in the community. So I like to think of myself as conservative. It's not get to the end of the year and spend up to the budget so we make sure we get it next year. No, we don't need it. Turn it back. Like I said before, I really, our budget, our capital budget needs work. I'm going to keep saying that. And I think that I'll add that to my goals too, but the the operational budget, having seen our department heads work and manage their budgets, our budget is actually really good. You know, you look at it on its face and it's a very large number, obviously, but it hasn't gone up it's gone up less than 2% or so over the last 5 years. And when I see on the ground level what the people that are working these budgets are doing, I know that we're in good shape budget wise because everyone's being responsible. Everyone is being responsible. And I would certainly expect that to continue and sort of demand that continue because as like I said, every dollar matters to everyone in this community. And it's incumbent on us to be responsible with that. And you know, that as far as this year's budget, again, you know, nothing crazy. It was, you know, it's obviously a long process. But I think like last year, like the budget came out pretty good. I think, you know, with that many people looking at it, I think it should. I think a lot of people did some good work, starting with the department heads. Mary is as thorough as they come. Little humble brag for my boss. And I think the process and the people that handle the process, I think the community should know that in terms of finances, we are in very good hands. And if I may, we just hired a finance director that has the ideas and the wherewithal to really take the budget to places that it should go. And responsibly, but smartly. And it's gonna, I think the budgeting, our budget moving forward is going to be sort of, if I can use a nerd math guy term, exciting. Is that both?
So I'm going to follow up real quick on capital with you. Typically, we do about 2% of the total budget for capital projects.
Yep.
You have a number that you would think or suggest? At 4%?
Yeah, I think, you know, sort of, I don't want to say an industry standard, and obviously Kim probably knows this better than me, but yeah, like 3 to 5. And I think she just put out a draft policy with somewhere in that range. I don't know if it was exactly that range, but I'm pretty sure. So yeah, double would be in that range, right?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Tom, we talked a little bit about how we're going to interact. You're going to interact with us.
Yeah.
You would. How would you prefer to work with the school department and why?
School department. Well, I've actually, since I became deputy, have gotten a very good opportunity to chat with Greg Thompson, the chair of the school committee, Gordon, who's always forthcoming. I would treat it like I would treat any other professional relationship. We have a good line of communication. And we have to, I mean, the town handles a lot of school services outside of the school budget. And so just sort of organically, these relationships have to be in place because DPW is doing a lot of things with the schools, with the buildings, and you know, IT obviously. So pretty much the way things are going right now, just like everybody else, just an open line of communication. I think if you're talking, there's no surprises. Nobody's looking to pull one over anyone else. I think the school is a huge part of the town. And the town's a huge part of the school. And I think obviously the better we get along, the better it is for everyone. And that's where I'm looking at it. Just keep that communication open and try to figure out how we're going forward in the same boat.
Thanks.
I'm up. So how do you balance the needs of all departments, not just the ones that the public seems to place in their focus?
One more time, Mike? Sorry.
The question is, how do you balance the needs of all the departments, not just the departments that seem to be in the residents' focus?
Right. Yeah, obviously equally. Since I've been in the office, I'm open to everyone. I come here, I come to the library, I come to the police station, I go to all the board and commissions meeting. I mean, like, it's gotta be a full court press on everyone, because everyone has needs. Everyone, regardless of what's on Facebook or what people are complaining about the most, every department services someone in this community. So even if they're not the loud person, everything we do is important. Everything. Every person that works in that department's important. Every department's important to at least one person in the community, right? So that demands and commands my attention. And so it gets it, and it will continue to get it. And if that means, sitting with Ralph and Marilyn at every planning board meeting till now and to eternity, I guess I'll have to do it. But no, I think that's the big part of the gig is everybody has to have my attention, and they get it.
Thank you.
Yep.
It's fun. What ideas do you have for economic development for East Long Meadow?
Huh. My ideas, huh? Well, I think I was excited about when Bailey first brought up the center of town, the center town district, whatever he's calling it now. I think downtown could be a little more inviting. I think there could be some more things. I mean, obviously, Center Square Grill and that's like a nice little community development thing. And obviously, if we can keep going on, the mixed use thing, I know we spent a lot of time trying to come up with that bylaw and obviously didn't come to fruition, but I think there are a lot of these opportunities for just that kind of growth, that sort of fun, exciting kind of growth, because I feel like our community still has some population growth coming, whether that is mixed use housing, or we still have plenty of vacant land that is just itching for cul-de-sacs. So I think I would really like to see us start in the middle and work out, because that's sort of already developed, and we don't have to start developing our open space, because now we're starting to crisscross our master plan ideas. If we're going to develop the open space areas, well, now we've sort of cut our nose off to spite our face. So that we have an aging center of town, and I think if we can start to sort of foster some projects to bring some more development down there, and whether that's the use district or new buildings or whatever it is, I think that's certainly can and help out the community a great deal.
Okay,
Okay.
why should we select you?
Why should you select me? I think, quite frankly, not to be too philosophical, I'm here in this time and space to have this job. I think I'm the best person for this job. I have obviously a ton of experience with our infrastructure in the DPW. I was on charter review, so I know our charter front to back. I'm on the bylaw committee, and I was on the bylaw committee when we recodified, so I know way too much about our laws. I'm on planning matters subcommittee, which all these committees afford me to this information about how our town works that is invaluable. And, you know, the high school building committee, obviously a polarizing topic in town. I'm arms deep in that. You know, I was on the open space committee. And I really feel like I have unparalleled institutional knowledge in terms of how that office should run. And thankfully, I was, you know, stuck in an office with a consummate professional who really pushed me to learn everything I could while I was there. And I know it was because she saw something in me that I didn't even see. And it was to have me sitting here right now. And I'm willing and I'm able and I know I can do it. And you will not be disappointed if I'm your selection.
Charter.
Oh, geez. Let me get my copy out.
So I'm going off the question and I'm going to bring up our charter. Obviously, you know it very well. Is there one item within our charter that you think could use a change or adjusting to make it better?
Well, I realize why it is the way it is, but our bylaw procedure is pretty painstaking. And I know there's other things to it, and maybe it's maybe the example is getting too far off the bylaw procedure in the charter. But you know, when somebody comes to you, or when the planning director comes to you to kick it back to the planning board, just so the planning board can kick it to you, I feel like that there's one too many steps there for efficiency. And I know we talked about it at length, I think, in the charter review process about the bylaw process. And it seemed long and painstaking, but I think we ended up leaving it in because the process sort of manifested the questions that needed to be asked to make sure that the bylaw was right. So do I think it needs to be changed? I think we can still tweak it so it's a little bit easier. And I don't want to suggest, you know, if it's a department head suggesting a bylaw that we should just let it go, as opposed to the general public. I think there's some language in there in the bylaw thing that's just, the process is long. And if it's the right thing to do, maybe it should be, you know, maybe the process should be taken out. But I know we talked about it a lot when we were reviewing the charter, and I'm guessing we'll do it again when we review it again. But that comes to mind right offhand. I mean, for the most part, it's a great document, and I wasn't here when the town voted to switch. But in my opinion, it was 100% the right move. The professionalism in the organization, starting from here on down, it just can't be touched. Everybody's accountable. Everybody's professional. Everybody's talented. Everybody's, you know, knows what they're supposed to do, and they can do it very easily. And if they don't know, they just look at the document and that's that, right? So that's just my opinion. Not just because it's town council, town manager, but anyway, sorry, that was my charter rant.
Thank you.
Yep.
Tom, how would you keep both a pulse on the community and what is important to them, and also keep them informed about what's going on in town?
Okay. Get out there. I like to get out there. I've seen you all at multiple events, whether that's community events or our boards and commissions. I think, in my opinion, that a large part of this position is to be the face of the town in a way. And that means putting your face out there. That sort of keeps the community informed just by having polite conversations at every event. But it also keeps you accountable when you're out there and you have to explain yourself to everyone every time you see them. And again, the second part of that is sort of a work in progress. I think I certainly think nowadays with technology and if we end up with more web pages or a sit down community sort of Q&A thing. That's one of my stronger suits is talking with people. I think that's what made me pick the public sector in the first place. I like interacting with people, and I like when I'm interacting with people about work and about things that I care about or initiatives or so I hope and I'm sure that we can get to a point where we're getting this information out more. But for me, it's FaceTime. It's just being out there and smiling and being available. Just being available.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any closing remarks you'd like to make?
Mic drop it.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's an interesting situation. Obviously, we've all worked together. I don't think I've ever interviewed with people I've known before that I've worked together with for so long. I hope that I've conveyed how much of an honor it is to be here and how much I care about my job and how much I care about working for this town and how much I care about everybody in this town. And I want to be good at my job, and I am good at my job, and I'm just going to get better. And I really, I don't think you're going to be disappointed if you select me for this job. I won't let you down. I'll never stop working. I never have. I never will. That's me. That's who I am. That's who I want to be for you. That's how I want to be for the community. Just come to the office and go to work and go home or go to a community event and what do they say? Shake some babies, kiss some hands. Way around. No, I feel privileged to be here, and I thank you for your time, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. So at this time, I would suggest that we take a 5-minute recess.
So, Tom, thank you.
Sure.
Coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Okay, Don, we're in recess.
We have to move. We have to move.
We gotta do.
No, actually, the chair can declare.
No, that's fine. I was.
Good afternoon, welcome.
Hi, I'm Dave.
Hi, nice to meet you.
Kathy Hill, nice to meet you.
Ralph Page.
Hi, Ralph.
Marilyn.
Marilyn. Connor. Hi, Connor.
Mike Kane. Hi.
Good afternoon. I don't think it's quite evening yet, so good afternoon.
Afternoon.
David, the way we've set this up is I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about yourself, the position, why you're interested in the position as an introduction. Then we're going to bring it to the council. We have a series of questions. I'll start with the first one. It'll go around to my right. It'll be about 40 minutes of different questions. And then we'll ask you at the end for a closing statement and your thoughts at the end.
Great.
So the floor is yours. If you
All right.
want to start with your name, that would be great for the record.
Dave Flaherty. And like many of you, I have 2 pairs of glasses.
We know about that.
You know about that. On a computer.
I don't.
So before I continue, should I just call you all council or you want me to call it first name or how do you want it?
Whichever you.
Whatever, I'll say council, then I cover everybody. All right, thank you for having me. I know that, this has been a long process for you. I know that you have an internal candidate and you have some level of comfort with him. And I believe, that he meets most of the qualifications that you're looking for. I have watched a lot of your videos and meetings over the last couple of years. I don't know if you know my history with applying for this job, but this is like the 3rd time around for me. I did apply during the first, second cycles. I believe I got screened out because I didn't have town manager or town administrator in any of my job experiences, but I do have very relevant experience that I think is important to you. I know you appreciate Mary and trust her, and I get that. And I've been in your shoes before. I understand that she picked the current deputy. But I'm going to proceed anyhow. For me, I think this is like our first date. And unfortunately, at the end of this meeting, I'm hoping to ask you to marry me. And I know that's a tough sell. I understand it's a challenge. I'm hoping that, to make a little bit longer opening statement. Again, I've watched a lot of your meetings. I understand what you're looking for. And I'm hoping it'll help you get to know me a little bit better. I did send you out links to some of my writings and videos. So hopefully you got to watch some of those and that might give you a better feel for who I am and what I do. History-wise, just for the people that don't know, I graduated from Simsbury High School, then I went on to college at Northeastern University. I have degrees in engineering and computer science. From a long time ago when computer science was kind of a brand new field. I know you have expertise in that recently. I have a master's in business administration from Western New England. It was a college at the time, now a university. And I pursued a master's in computer science from RPI. And I stopped doing that once I was traveling. I had to travel for work a lot. And then I eventually got married and started kids. So I didn't finish my master's in computer science, but I'm quite skilled in computer science. I worked for Bay State Gas as an engineer and supervisor for many years and left to start my own business. I kind of reached a point where I had to wait for somebody to die or retire until I could move up. And that happens a lot in utility businesses and government, in fact. I grew that business and eventually started and acquired a handful of other businesses. And like many business owners, I've had many great successes and many challenges and learned a lot of things, over that lifetime that will help me in my role here as a town manager. What I think I'm really good at is collecting and absorbing information and goals, establishing that vision, working with a team to develop plans and accomplishing the objectives in a timely and cost-effective way. I've worked with over 1,200 client organizations, including dozens of very large state and local government agencies. I was just talking to her out in the entryway. If you renew your license online, that's me personally at RMD, building that gateway. A lot of work for RMV, Mass Transportation, Big Dig. I was probably one of the only companies in Western Mass to make anything on the Big Dig. All the other money went, Boston, but we did really well with Big Dig. Did stuff for Governor Romney's Fiscal Affairs Office. Any cherry sheet you see now online, that was originally us. We had a team in Boston doing the software to distribute cherry sheets. 911, Supreme Court, DCAM, Elder Affairs, PVTA, FRTA, Economic Development Agency. We actually worked for the Connecticut Economic Development Agency on a site called You Belong in Connecticut. And at the time I was based out of Springfield and had my whole team in Springfield selling to why you should be in business. I think, the success with those government things led to other jobs. I got a lot of referrals from the RMV. That was the first job I had as a contractor, but it led to me getting what's called a master service agreement with the state, which allowed me to bid on things with no bid in many cases, because we had, such a track record and the financial ability to do many things for the government. So when you're in that scope, it makes it a lot easier to get some of those other government jobs we had. In the business world, I've been involved in chambers of commerce and other groups that have given me insight to what's important and what's challenging for a huge variety of businesses, from mom and pop businesses to, rather giant. In Springfield area, there's a thing called the Super 60. About half of those have been my clients over the years. The biggest health insurance company in the area, the biggest payroll company in the area, the largest hospitals in the area, 3 or 4 banks in the area. They've all been customers over the years. I've also been involved in the community, and you've mentioned that several times, looking for how a person can help with community spirit. You probably saw my resume that I've been involved in Boy Scouts for a long time, almost 20 years. Junior Achievement, Big Brothers Big Sisters. It's on the Westfield 350 committee. And if we talk later, we can talk about pickle. You guys don't have pickleball in town here, but
We do.
you do now? It's getting there. I haven't seen the courts yet, but I'll be coming if they're there. But yeah, we formed a pickleball association in Westfield. I've formed the Westfield Taxpayers Association to help the community get involved in the process of budgeting and learning about this stuff. I've been elected 7 times to city council in Westfield. I've been pretty much, if you read my stuff or see my videos, I'm all about fiscal responsibility and strong government, exposure, of information to the public. I've been chair of the Finance Committee, Long Range Finance Committee, Zoning Planning Committee, Business Development Committee, Charter and Rules Committee. I just finished up a charter renewal that hopefully we get voted on Thursday night. I've been involved where you guys are in the screening committees and the hiring committees for our financial team. In Westfield, the city council hires the entire financial team. The mayor is not part of that. So I've been involved in that, the city auditor, treasurer, collector. I think you'll find that if you ask people in Westfield, I'm the most influential counselor when it comes to the budget process, debts, obligations, and long-term planning. I regularly prepare 5-year budgets going forward. As a counselor, I know in your case, you start out with the town manager doing that, but as a council in Westfield, I've been very active in trying to predict and prepare for long-term things. So I always do a 5-year budget separate from the mayor's submitted 5-year budget. And then we reconcile things and we kind of have a guide for where we should be going in the future. I've helped citizens in Westfield engage with the government to stop some things that they don't like. As a counselor, and you're in that position now, you have people in town coming to you wanting to know how to get things done. In a government format, where there's a council and a mayor, sometimes the council will support the citizens in opposition to something the mayor's proposing. And I've done that a few times in Westfield, and people really appreciate it. One of them had to do with a new school. Our school is under development right now. We have a new elementary school project. I know you have a new high school project in the wings. Our elementary school project started over 10 years ago, and the first site was not the appropriate site. The citizens opposed it, and I helped show them what to do it the correct way. We've gone through a couple other iterations, and we finally have the site, and it's under development. It started just construction a couple of weeks ago. When we started the process, just so you guys can compare your numbers, this was an elementary school, under 600 kids, mid $30 million price range at the time, over 10 years ago. It just came in final budget, $62 million. That's $710 a square foot. So if you take that and multiply it by your 200,000 plus number, it's an obscene amount of money when you think about it compared to what we pay in business. If you hired Mass Mutual to build a building, or Walmart or somebody else, they pay nowhere near $700 a square foot. It's absolutely ridiculous what it costs to build. We also have municipally owned fiber internet in town. I was one of the first people to come on as a commercial customer for that. When it came in my neighborhood, I was one of the first people to sign up for that. I've been in the business of providing internet services to customers over the years, so from dial-up to DSL to T1 lines to all kinds of data services. So I kind of know that business. Before Whip City, and this will help you with your school funding, I believe. So before Whip City Fido, we had Comcast. Our cost for internet, TV, and phone at home was about $250 a month. Our cost after going to fiber is $110 a month fully loaded. So we pay about $70 a month for fiber, and then we pay extra for Netflix and Prime and things like that, the phone service, and movies that my wife wants to see because she watches the Hallmark Channel, which isn't on some of the other things, so you have to pay extra. But anyhow, our total savings is about $140 a month. I think you can combine that in your efforts to pay for that school. I know paying for that school is going to be a concern, but if you can help save people, taxpayers, $140 a month for homeowners, that might be a selling method of a few votes to get for your school funding override. I know a lot of the players in the MLP space. One of my customers is Memwick, and working at Basic Gas, I had a relationship with them, and now Memwick has a relationship with lots of other MLPs. I've worked with 23 of Memwick's customers over the years. I'm very familiar with the MLP business. And in your case, you're just looking at MLP for the fiber. But there's lots of other things you could be doing. And there's lots of things to think about when you form an MLP that some of your internal guys may not be thinking about because they're so focused on delivery of the internet. But there's a lot of other requirements for setting up an MLP. I know that East Long Meadow is a wonderful town. There's great culture and values. You're financially very healthy and you have a fine team of leaders. I also believe, though, that everything can be made incrementally better. Just because you're comfortable now doesn't mean things can't be better. And I think having an outsider like me come in and look at some of these things can help you. I also think that I can help as a counselor. The last few town managers you have been from the executive side of the house, not legislative. And they may not know what it's like to be in your seats. And I think I have that, after being elected to that 7 times and being a citizen advocate. I also know your council is going to turn over, right? The dynamics are going to change in the upcoming, 2 weeks, right? Right? Isn't there an election, right? So the election is going to bring on another new person. And that's going to make Connor the most senior of the youngest 4 people. And that's going to change the dynamics of this council potentially. And I'm not going to say it's a good way or bad way, but I think you have to understand that that kind of thing can happen. And I've been through that several times. And I think you have to have a manager that can understand that and understand the differences of how the dynamics might work. I think my experience on council can help all of the councilors do their job, in a wonderful way. And maybe I can provide some help in guiding some of the things you have to do. So with that, I'm ready to answer some questions, and I thank you very much for inviting me. I do have stuff on paper in here because I've prepared for 2 hours to discuss things, and I know you want to cut into 20 minutes. So I have a lot of content we can talk about.
Okay, I'm going to start the questions.
Okay.
So what do you see as the greatest challenge East Long Meadow faces in the near future? And how do you feel you could help it?
Okay, so I covered a few of them. I think, honestly, I can say that in any town like this, the relationship between the council and the manager is very challenging and is one of the most important things to have straightened out. I know you've heard that from a couple of your candidates through interviews, and you've seen some things with your own experience. But I can tell you after talking with other towns and other managers and administrators that what drives that separation is usually the communication relationship with the body, whether it's a select board or the council. In your case, again, I think I could have a great relationship with you and make this really work well. But that is one of the most important things you want to lock down right away. I know, Mary was triggered a couple of years ago by a couple incidents. And I think all that came down to communication, understanding what the roles are. And your town was going through a conversion in the framework of government. And it still is a little bit, right? There's still a learning curve going from, the town meeting form of government to elected council, mayor, manager form of government. And I think I can help with that. I think the new school project is one of the hottest things you have going. I would expect some opposition based on the price. That's just reading it from outside and reading your concerns about taxes. I think you have to have a coordinated effort to sell that if you expect it to get done. I know it's very, very popular with people who have school-age children, but it may not be so popular with business owners and older residents. My math says you're looking at somewhere between a 14 and 17% tax increase based on the numbers that I saw in the paper and assuming decent bond ratings. I do believe you have room to improve your bond rating. I know you're AA plus now, but I think you can get to AAA with a little bit of effort. And I think you have, from what I understand, kind of a rock star financial leader now. And, between her and I and you, I think we could work to getting to AAA before that bond is offered on the market. If not, we can get very close. The fiber optic internet project, I think, is kind of an important thing, but it's nowhere near as important as that school. It's not going to be a huge money maker for you. There are costs, but it will be a money saving thing for the residents and businesses. In Westfield, it's a cash cow, but only because we own the poles and the rights of way, and we had a dedicated staff of service people beforehand. You don't have that here. You have to pay to be on the poles. You have to dig trenches. You don't have a support staff that can handle it. They may think they can handle it right now, but they really need some help. And you don't do monthly billing, for example. Monthly billing for internet is a pain in the neck, right? And think about how many bills have to go out and how much money has to be collected. And you pay transaction fees and envelope stuffing fees and all kinds of things that you need to worry about. So it's not going to be the big cash cow for you here, but it will again help your homeowners and businesses. I think you have a good budget start right now, but there are some long-term challenges in there, particularly your OPEB. You're funded better than most, but you're still bleeding. So when I say bleeding, your balance is going up every year instead of staying flat or going down. So you're not paying enough into OPEB to even stay even. You are, however, better than 90% of the communities in Massachusetts. So I would say on the financial side, the other thing to consider is what's called a debt exclusion account. You've dropped your debt payments out of your annual budget this year, but you haven't reserved that money to have available in future years. And one of the tricks to saving a portion of your budget is to set aside a thing called a debt exclusion account, so that you set a threshold every year for your debt payments. In Westfield's case, it's $7.2 million. So if we only need $6.1 million, we then put savings into the savings account of 1.1 million to get to that 7.2. And that way we have a steady 7.2 over time, and we build up a reserve that can help fund the future debt. For example, we're putting on a school and a new police station at the same time. We can't afford all that all at once, but we'll have enough savings because we've done this thing ahead of time where we can front load that bond. So those are some of the challenges and opportunities I see. Long-winded answer. Hopefully,
Thank you.
hopefully I'll get to some yes, no answers.
Kathy,
Thank you. Dave, can you give us your 30, 60, and 90-day entry plan if you were to assume the role of town manager?
Yes. So this is another long answer though. So I'd like to start as soon as possible. I know your fiscal year starts soon, but Mary's on a clock. I think it's very important to have some overlap with Mary before she goes. So I'd like to start at -20 or something like that. I don't care about the money. We can figure out how to take care of it. I know you have a budget you have to live within, but I'd like to start as soon as possible. I think that transition is very important. I'd like her to share her to-do list. She is extremely prepared. She's one of the best town managers I've ever seen. And that's not just to blow smoke at her. She really, truly is. And I think you've been very, very lucky. But I know she's very prepared, and she has a handoff kit, I guarantee you, for the next leader that comes into town. And I'd like to talk to her about that and get up to speed with her stuff as soon as possible. I know she has a to-do list of things that she couldn't get done before she left. And she's certainly accomplished a ton, but I bet you she's got a tick list of other things that she wants done. So I'd like to know that ahead of time. I'd like her to introduce me around the city before she leaves. It's different when you're walking to a building cold versus having a warm introduction by somebody. I know Tom has been around and he could probably play that role, but I think she would be better too. I'd like to talk to her about how she delegates and makes appointments. You're going to have a few appointments coming up on boards and commissions. She probably has a list of people that are potential that maybe didn't want it last time, or maybe they cycled off and might be willing to come back on. She might have a list of people that says, stay the hell away from, can I say that on TV? No, stay away from these people, right? There are some people that you may not want on your boards and commissions. I'd like to talk to Mr. Christian and discuss what role he wants in the future. I would assume he would want to stay, and I would love having him stay, and I would love working with him regardless of the role. There is an assistant to town manager right now. I'm not sure what her plans are, and I think we should talk to her about that. Mary obviously made some choices, and I'd like to make sure that, I understand why she made the choices and make sure I follow up with what she's talking about. The first 30 days, I'd like to meet individually with every council and department head. I'd like to understand your visions. I know there's the vision question, might be coming up here, and some of you believe that it's your job to set the vision. Others believe it's the town manager's job to set the vision. And maybe there's two different visions. Maybe there's a vision for the long-term goals of the town, and maybe there's a vision on how to operate the town government. So I'd like to talk to you guys about your vision and what you want on your list for that first year. I'd like to review vacancies on boards and commissions and run them by you and Mary. I'd like to meet with HR and understand any issues that may be ongoing. In Westfield, we have some great challenges and they never seem to go away. I'm sure your HR department probably has a few things that they may want us to think about. The town accountant I'd meet with regularly in those first few weeks. I think and within the next 60, within 60 days, I'd like to have the council's goals for that first year written down. I know you have a goal question that you typically ask, but I'd like to see the goals in writing and get us all on the same page of what those goals are. I've seen some of your evaluations online on the town manager section of the website. And after reading some of the evaluations, I was wondering if the same people were, the people were viewing the same manager. It's kind of strange to see some of the variation in the ratings of the town manager. And I think that might come from the lack of communication or lack of understanding of the common goals. So I'd like to make sure we straighten that out in the first 60 days. I'd probably arrange an all-employee meeting near the end of that 60 days. I'd like to meet everybody, share the vision, talk about the goals for this new year. I know it's summertime, but that's sometimes a good time to do these kind of things. I'd like to be able to answer the questions, as well as I can. Within the 90 days, I'd like to have a town-wide opportunity for citizen engagement. In Westfield, I've done barbecues and pancake breakfasts and things like that. But I think if you want the town manager to be the face of the town, you got to allow the town manager to get out there and do that kind of stuff. If you don't, that's perfectly fine too. Many town administrators, for example, do not have a public persona, right? They're just like the guy in the closet that gets things done. But in a town manager role, that's usually a little bit more exposure. And it's up to you guys to decide, with the town manager, what level of exposure you want the town manager to have. If citizen engagement is one of the things you want, then I think that should be something of a priority. 90 days, I think we'll be preparing for the debt exclusion vote. I think there'll be pressure. I don't know for sure, but my guess is that kind of number is going to be great pressure. And you don't have too many chances to get that vote passed before MSBA goes away, or you have to fund it yourself. I'd like to learn about your specific budget line items. Some of your line items that I've seen in your budget don't match up to my budgets. And it's just a matter of understanding what's stuffed in there with that name. So I think that takes a little bit of time. And I know what transition is always challenging, but I really look forward to it. And I think, together we can solve a lot of things. Those 90 days too would be a great way to start.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Man,
I do have some short answers.
All right, so describe how you will approach fostering an environment of diversity, equity, and true inclusion, both within the governmental structure and in the community.
All right. So this can be a fast one, I think. So I believe everyone deserves to be treated equally and with respect at all times. I mean, that's the foundation of this. However, these days, there's also a lot of legal issues and, for example, the use of pronouns, like people are getting in big trouble for calling the person the wrong pronoun, right? Just over in East Hampton, their school committee guy said, addressed the letter as ladies, and that like freaked a lot of people out, right? There's all kinds of things that we have to worry about legally. And I think we need regular training on those laws and expectations in the market. But again, I think the foundation is treat everybody with respect and equally. And it doesn't matter what color they are, what religion they are, what kind of clothes they wear, what color their hair is, how many tattoos they have on their face or piercings they have, or who they choose to love and sleep with. It doesn't matter at all. They all should be treated with, dignity and respect. So that's my answer. You didn't ask about access, but a lot of places ask about access as well. And you need to make sure that your buildings and services are accessible to people that are a little bit different. And, it's not just physical handicap ability. Sometimes there's other challenges. So you want to make sure that you have those things taken care of. I can tell you that the ACLU and groups like that are very assertive when it comes to suing communities for civil rights and constitutional rights. And you have to be really careful and make sure that everybody in the community understands that, particularly ones that have contact with customers or public.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
We need a strong leader and a strong manager. Can you describe how you can do both?
Sorry, another long one. So yeah, I can do both. And I think a lot of people think they're kind of the same thing. There's a lot of overlap, but I see, some big differences between leadership and management. And again, this is one of those things you have to define where the line is between the manager who has the manager title and the town council, right? So in my case, I think you happen to need the town manager to be both a leader and a manager. And the manager is going to be setting the vision, inspiring and motivating people, setting the tone of business, coming up with the long-term goals and, leading by example, empowering others, helping the teams grow. That's what the leader does. And I think you can help the town manager be a good leader by clarifying all those goals and setting what your expectations are for the community and for the town manager's job. The management part of that is about executing and organizing and committing the resources in the right way, doing the processes, following the procedures to get things done. So it's more about execution than it is about vision and leadership. When it comes to employee, the leader talks about working with people in employee development, understanding individuals. It's important, you have a variety of people working in town. It's important to understand what drives those individuals and makes them do the right thing. And that's more of a leadership function than a manager who says, okay, you show up from 9 to 5 and you clock 40 minutes a day on this item and you make sure to log it over here and do all the managerial stuff. So that's important. I think long-term vision, the leader is certainly a more long-term thinker than the manager. Again, you need that town manager to help you with the long-term vision. I don't think it can be done 100% by the town manager or 100% by the board. I think it has to be a good blend, but I think we all have to agree on what the long-term picture should look like. The manager is mostly short-term, day-to-day operations, maybe monthly activity reports and things like that. So those are some of the differences between that. I think I have skills in both areas. I'm very, very comfortable working with boards and commissions, with companies, with state agencies, with department heads, with citizens. I have a great reputation working with citizens and particularly older people and younger people. So I think it would be a really good fit for me.
Great, thanks.
Thanks.
David, could you describe how you would foster a team working from and towards the same goals?
I think it goes back to that vision and what you want for the city or the town. And we have to make sure we have all the department heads and leaders accepting of that vision. They may not all be on agreement with it all the time, but once we set that vision and tone and come up with the goals and objectives, the department heads have to be on board with delivering that. I think we're all on the same team. We all have a goal of customer service. If you think about government that way as a customer service business, we all have to serve our customers, the residents of town, the businesses in town, the other state agencies we have to deal with, the neighbors and community towns. You're in partnership in a couple of places with your partners. So we all have to deliver on that customer service goal. There's also financial parameters that, frankly, you guys are really good on. I'm not sure how far down that gets into your organization, but the top part of your organization has a pretty good history of dealing with financial matters. So I think that's an area that doesn't need as much attention as the customer service end of things, but is certainly part of the mix when you're figuring out goals and objectives for each of those departments.
Thank you.
Good. That's a quicker answer.
Hi, Dave.
I can,
How would you prefer to receive direction from the town council? And then how do you keep the town council informed?
okay, so I'll go off script because that's an easier one. So I agree. I think person to person is a great way. I think, before we have a formal meeting, if there's anything that's contentious, we should have some kind of conversation about that ahead of time with some key players. I know your rules don't allow for a quorum to meet with the town manager outside of here typically, but if you ask another lawyer for a different opinion, they'll tell you that I'm an employee of yours. And as an employee, the quorum rules don't apply. So we have to think about that and figure that out. But I think I want to receive direction in a clear, concise way that we can all understand. I think you can tell by the way I've talked here. I like having engagement and some back and forth. If you ask me some questions later on, I might ask you some questions to help set the tone so you can figure out how I would do these things. But I think we have to have that interactivity in person. As far as keeping you in the loop, I think it depends on what you want. These days, almost everybody has email and reads their email very quickly. I have many email accounts on my cell phone. I'm sure you do, but maybe some of the others too. That seems to be a common way of communication that you can get anywhere in the world at any time. So I think that's important. I think you have to decide what type of information you want. You certainly don't want that thing beeping several times a day for me to tell you that, a light bulb is out or something, but you might want to know if there's a police action, for example, or if there's a gas leak or something like that. So I think we would have to set up those parameters. I can tell you for the Big Dig in Mass Pike, I set up an extensive communication network so that any incident that happens was relayed to every key stakeholder very, very quickly. That was one of the big projects we did out of our data center in Springfield. And it was before you had tweeting and texting and all that kind of stuff. The ceiling collapsed in the Big Dig. That was my software that managed tracking the incidents and notifying all the associated agencies. So I think we could find a way to do that and whatever works for you. If you want personal meetings, I happen to like our current mayor in Westfield has come up with a policy, and it's something I've asked for before. But the mayor meets with every councilor individually at least once a month on a scheduled basis. So if you want to meet at 4 o'clock and you want to meet at 9 o'clock, on the first Thursday and the second Thursday, setting aside that block of time would be good for all of us. And it's worked out very, very well in our case in Westfield. The old method of making appointments and all that was a kind of a pain in the neck because, the executive is pretty busy. And when you're trying to hook up meetings, it's kind of a pain. So by having these meetings scheduled in advance and just say, okay, you have a standing Tuesday at 9 o'clock. That's a great way to manage communications and allow that one-to-one interaction. I covered it?
Yes.
Hi, Dave.
Hi.
Okay, describe a positive community endeavor you initiated or facilitated. Why was it positive? What was your role and your takeaways?
Okay. You like something governmenty or something social?
Doesn't matter.
Okay, so a fun one, and I think everybody can understand this, is we had a Westfield 350 celebration, a year-long list of activities. I helped the board and I get a phone call and says, Dave, we want you to do a pancake breakfast. Is that okay? I said, sure. Like I would normally say, and well, you had experience with Boy Scouts doing pancakes, right? So, yeah. So, well, that turns into like a major, major project. It's not like just call up and, order 100 pancakes, right? So this turned into, after lots of investigation, okay, how many people? No, well, we don't know. How much money do we have? You don't have any money. Like, what do you have for resources? You don't have resources. We're just going to give it to you and you run this pancake breakfast at 350. So that took a lot of leadership and coordination with other people in town, right? So we settled on a number of 4,000 participants. We're going to have 4,000 customers come through in 3.5 hours. How are you going to give them pancakes? That's 10,000 pancakes. We needed some kind of meat to go with that. So originally they wanted to cook bacon. You're going to cook bacon for 4,000 people and pay for it. Like there's no money. So we figured out all the logistics, came up with a budget, and we needed over $12,000 to cover the food budget. And then there's tents and tables and chairs and entertainment. We hired a juggler, we hired musicians, we hired a broadcaster. We had some of the Eagle Scouts do projects that were historical in nature. The whole concept of our 350 was to make things historical, fun, and memorable. So a pancake breakfast sounds kind of bland. So we had to add stuff into it to make it an event, to make it those things. So we came up with this budget. Then it's, okay, how do we fund this? Well, the 350 committee said, well, we'll fund the tents and chairs because we got them for another event. We'll just move them over and you'll be okay there. But what about stoves? How many stoves do you need? Do we even have enough stoves in town? We needed 185 pancakes per hour per stove in order to deliver on 10,000 pancakes. And have you ever seen a teenager try to make pancakes? Like, forget about it, right? So we had to find other volunteers. So we reached out into the community to get volunteers. So first I hit up all the other politicians because it was election year and they were trying to serve the 350. Every single volunteer in town, politician in town came in and flipped pancakes and helped with that. We had other adults in the community do the actual cooking. The kids ran around. We had 190 gallons, I believe, of pancake batter. And pancake batter is heavy and you had to mix that stuff. So we mixed it in 5-gallon buckets with paint spinners. That's how you mix that kind of volume. We had to get the scoopers, pull out the pancake batter and squirt it on the thing because 185 pancakes an hour, you have to have a method. Like you're going like crazy. So we coordinated out, we got all the volunteers. Volunteers want stuff, so we gave everybody shirts and we gave them, recognition. Ended up, I needed to raise all that kind of money. So I went out to the business community, hit up all the businesses I know that were not on the 350 list already because they didn't want us competing with the people they were asking for money to pay for fireworks and other stuff. So we hit up all those people. We decided to offer free pancakes to kids. We have a higher low income number than you have. We offered to pay for pancakes for all the elementary school kids. And the way that helped us is we were able to sell that to older people in town by saying, okay, you can sponsor a class full of kids for $50 donation. And that would cover the pancakes for that. So we had a lot of people write us $50 checks. We raised over $9,000 directly, and then we raised the rest through ticket sales. We also did a 350 coin collection. So you guys probably have heard about geocaching. Well, we made geocaching an activity, and we made custom wooden coins that had the 350 logo on one side and sponsors on the other side. And we sold those to sponsors for a couple $100 a piece. And the profit from the coins helped offset the cost of the pancakes. So it was quite a project. It ended up being a very, very memorable event. Everybody had a great time and big success. So that was a fun one. Much more fun than some of the other government things.
Thank you.
So I'm going to bring it down a little bit then. Can you describe a community endeavor you initiated or facilitated that didn't work out, was negative, and what was your role or takeaway from that?
Sure. So I'll say I picked one that has a good ending, but it was certainly very negative along the way. So Westfield has a water pollution problem. We have an Air Force Base out there. The aquifer of this town is underneath that Air Force Base, and the water has been polluted by all PFAS. And you're seeing that around the country now. It's a big issue. The water department noticed it. They got notification from the state that they had to take action to clean it up or shut people's water off. They came to us. In our city, the water is run by a commission, and the commission is appointed by the mayor and approved by the council. So it's a separate body that's completely in charge of the water. It's not part of DPW. It's a completely separate body. They have to get bonding approval from the city council. They came to us asking for $20 million to clean up this water by using these things called granulated activated carbon filters. Big, huge filters, much like if you're out in the woods camping and you use a hand pump filter, or you have a sink filter at home, it has a carbon chamber in it. These things are on a massive scale. It costs us about $20 million to build the facility to filter the water. The people in the water department and at the state said this is the best thing available to deliver safe water to your residents. However, lots of residents in town said, well, safe isn't good enough. If there's one little tiny speck of bad stuff in that water, we don't want it. We want you to shut the thing off. We don't want you filtering it. We want that supply shut off and for you to find other supplies. Well, that's like impossible, right? There's only so many supplies of water. The state told us the best solution is these granulated filters. We hired outside experts. They told us the filters. However, a lot of people in town thought we were intentionally poisoning them by leaving these filters or putting these filters in place. We're intentionally letting something go through that, knowing that that causes problems. So the first time around, I was chairman of the Long Range Finance Committee. The bond things come into council and they get referred to Long Range. Long Range recommended that we pursue this path, knowing that it wasn't 100% perfect, but it was the best solution for the time and critical for funding water supply for the whole town. It came to council. It was extremely contentious because we had a bunch of excited people in the audience saying, that's not good enough. You have to find a way. They didn't want us to approve the $20 million bond. They asked a million questions, and the Water Commission and the Water Department didn't want to answer the questions or refused to answer them. So when it came time for the vote, which required a 2/3 vote of the council, I voted no to the bonding, even though I voted yes to continue in committee. The reason I voted no was so that we could answer those questions and make the people in the community satisfied that we got all the answers. So first vote was a no. That's enough to kill it. In Westfield, bonds require 2 votes of 9 votes each, 2/3 majority. First vote got killed. I had all the people in the audience cheering, and I had all the people in the water department saying, what the hell are you doing? You were going to shut off the water if we can't put these filters in. So it was very, very contentious, and we were in a very tough position. But the issue wasn't whether it worked or not, it was the procedure for getting it approved. So I went to the mayor and the president of the council at the time, said, we have to address this issue. The reason everybody's so upset is because they don't believe you're telling the truth. They don't believe you're telling them the whole story. So we have to address that. So I put together another team meeting. It was the full council, the mayor, the experts from the DPW, and many of the outside contractors that only had written reports before and handed them in. We had everybody show up and it was like an inquisition, in there. And it was a free for all. We let everybody ask whatever questions they wanted, get all the answers they wanted. There were a few things that weren't answered in the meeting. They said, we'll get back to you, and they did. At the end of that, we re-voted and I voted yes. And I was a deciding vote again to fund that water filtration. But it wasn't a fun thing. And it was very contentious for a long time. But, in the case of water, you can't mess around. I mean, and there's no perfect solution for water, by the way, even if you have the cleanest reservoir in the world. I know you get yours from Springfield, but birds fly over that stuff and do their business in the reservoir, right? And your pipes are dirty going to your house. And, there's a lot of issues that affect water quality that come out of your tap. And that's just the way water is. You have to understand, the chemistry and the requirements of that. So
I think
that answered it.
Water issues. I think we'll do 2 more questions.
Okay,
I'm good, thanks.
sorry.
This could be a short one for,
Okay.
in one word, what adjective would you use to describe yourself as a town manager?
So I would pick achieving. I know that's not an adjective, but I think that's an accurate description. The most complimentary one I've heard other people say is that I'm a game changer. And that, I think, is something that is true, but sounds really pompous or something when I say it. But I really get involved in a lot of things, and having me on the team makes a difference in many ways across the board, not only on city council, but in business and in service to the community. I think that would be a good one if it can sound so.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So my sort of scripted question is about your approach to finance budgeting, but you've kind of covered that. So I have a separate question, which is sort of related to one of my reservations about you as a candidate. And regarding your private business you run, how do you plan to, if selected for the position, balance those responsibilities?
No balance. I understand what the job requirement is here. I've read your charter. I've applied for this thing several times. It's safe to say that I fully understand what you need and what I'm willing to do. However, there's some things I can't say on public because finance is involved and people are involved and some active customers involved. But I fully understand what you need and what you want, and I'm on track with that. And I've been thinking about this for a while. I talked to HR person outside. I planned on retiring years ago, and I didn't, and I've stayed through. I had a son and I didn't tell you this before, but I have a 21 and a 26-year-old. My 21-year-old just finished college, but for the last few years, he's been in college. So, I kind of stayed in business for a while and did things. I wasn't looking to make a change. Over the COVID period, I downsized. In February, I've decided to move on and close. My kids don't want my business. I have a couple of employees, pieces of it, but I'm in shutdown, move on mode. I closed my office in February. But I understand where you're going, and it won't be a problem whatsoever.
Thank you.
So based on the time, I'm going to jump right to our last question.
Sure.
Closing remarks. Do you have any for us? And what would you like to leave us with?
Sure. I'm trying to think if I missed anything else. You didn't ask me about school department. Do you want me to spend a minute on that, or is that important? Right?
Choose to spend the last few minutes on as far as closing remarks for us.
Okay. So I meant 2 things about school. I would work well with the superintendent and the school committee on a regular basis. I know that you have a separation of powers here in the city, but they are by far the biggest user of tax money in the community. They have the most impact in many ways. The town manager has no role in school management, and I understand that. However, we have to understand each other's objectives. The schools historically have absorbed huge portions of the budget to impact, say, other departments in the city, right? in a negative way. So if schools, if they tweak their budget by a little tiny bit, it could wipe out your whole HR department or some of the other departments. That's how big they are. So I think they need to understand that. Also, the town manager and the council needs to understand the importance of the schools and all the things that are in today's school environment. It's not like the schools of the old days. The kids that are coming through this COVID period have significant needs. State burdens are high. The social part of school has been devastated in the last few years. So there are very, very significant challenges. You happen to have a pretty decent flow of kids here. In Westfield, we have a decline. We've declined over 1,000 kids. We've lost 100 professionals and our budget's up $10 million for schools. Not graphs that I like to see at all ever. In your case, you have a much steadier position. But I do think that we have to have some kind of relationship between us and the committee, and that would be an important part of what I see us doing going forward. For closing remarks, I do believe I have what it takes to make a difference here. I've watched you for a long time. I'm not throwing out resumes all over the place. I've only been a finalist in one other community, Dalton, Mass. And I cherry picked what I'm targeting. I picked you because I've known this community for a long time. I used to live in Springfield. I used to play racquetball behind your town hall for a lot of years. For those who, anybody here play racquetball? No, oh, years ago. Okay. Well, just this year, I was 16 over state champ in Connecticut, and I was 18 and under back in the day in Connecticut. So that's quite a span. So I've played a lot of racquetball in town. I've come, of course, to restaurants and dining, in town over the years. I used to live on the border. I used to date a lady up in one of your condos. So I've been around a long time, and I have watched your government, as it transformed over time. I've kind of followed what's been going on with the different iterations. And I targeted communities where I think I can make a difference and be the right fit. I haven't applied to a lot of them, and I don't have any intention of doing that. I'm not using this as a stepping stone. I want this to be my final thing. I think I can do great things for you. I know you have two choices here. I've met Mr. Christian out in the parking lot, and I think, we could work very well together, and you have a choice that can keep us both together. I think I can really make a difference for you and the town. So thank you for consideration. I appreciate all this discussion. I'm sorry I couldn't answer all your questions. And really, I could go on and on and on. You didn't ask me an economic development question, did you?
We ran
Ran out of time. I have 2 hours to talk to you about economic development. At the time, when you're ready, there's a lot of things economic development wise you can do and that I think I can help you with. So that would be a topic for another day. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
Don, we're going to take a 5-minute recess.
And, yeah, I almost asked us to speak up for the things that'll be right. I think he was like.
Okay, you guys all set? Don, we back on? Beautiful. Okay, welcome back. We've just finished up our second interview for our finalists. And I want to bring it to the council and see what your thoughts are. Do you want to deliberate, talk about the two candidates now? Do you want to take a couple days, think about it? What's the wish of the council?
Well, I hear Joan telling us that she initiated the, how did you put it, the background check with the agency that conducts that, and it has to start first with the candidate to open up the link and provide some basic things.
Well, yes, but that doesn't really affect your decision because you can make an offer to anybody with a background.
Contingent upon, right, proper background check. I get that. You don't have any sense of when those reports would be back?
Generally, it takes 3 days from, and I sent it out Friday, but because of the long weekend. So it would probably be, by the end of the week, maybe, or even the beginning of next week. However, I'm not really sure that a lot of times you don't have the background check before you make a decision. You make that contingent on the offer.
Okay.
Right.
And then, of course, if something does come back, you can rescind that based on.
Based on, yeah, give the contingency.
Anyone else have any?
Anybody?
So I know in the past, we've done both. We've made a decision right away. We've waited. I mean, I could do either. It completely up to, what your thoughts are. Do you want to take, 48 or 72 hours to look over the answers and your notes that have been submitted and then make a decision? Or do you want to jump right into discussion right now?
Well, the earliest we could meet, because Jeannie couldn't post it until tomorrow morning, would be on a Friday of this week. That's the high school graduation, and
Yeah, that's not
many of
gonna
us are committed, including Don,
Right.
who has to
Oh, come on, Don.
provide the links. So I can't imagine how we could do that. If you post right away at 8 o'clock, we can't meet before 8 on a Friday, right?
Right, 48 hours.
And then next Tuesday is the town elections, and that's a busy time. I guess I would bounce back the question, what is the benefit of waiting another 3, 4, 5 days? Especially if we have the caveat that any offer is contingent upon successful background information.
I'm prepared to discuss both candidates. I really am. I feel that as a council, we went into this process in good faith, and we vetted a number of resumes that we reviewed, narrowed it down to 3, lost one of our candidates. Now we have 2. I see them both very different in my eyes. And I know who I would prefer. I'm sort of trying, not mean to be mysterious. I have not been silent about Tom Christensen all along. I feel that he has talent. We've seen him working amongst our departments. I thought his interview was refreshing. I thought he spoke from his heart, from his core, in terms of wanting to be a representative for the town of East Long Meadow in this position. And I enjoyed the interview. I truly did. It's not to say that Mr. Flaherty didn't interview well. I mean, he had a bevy of information. But I feel that there's just something about Tom's presence, the way he spoke from the heart. He wasn't shuffling papers or using a computer. It all came from here. And I was impressed. So those are my thoughts.
Connor?
Thanks, Ralph. I had a slightly different impression. Of course. I mean, I think both of them, regardless of who we pick, would leave East Long Meadow in good hands. And I don't think we can really make a mistake in judgment between the two. But I think, Tom, of course, came across very genuine and a good steward of the town, both living here and working here. And I think he did make some good points about our capital infrastructure needs and the overall capital plan. But I felt as though his overall answers to a lot of the questions seemed to be sparse, I suppose, in terms of vision and forward outlook, and more about how he's already worked with Mary in the short capacity thus far, instead of looking forward to, okay, you're now the person being the town manager, being in charge. How would you do things differently? Whereas I thought David could bring a different perspective, having done a lot of different things, both publicly and professionally. And he definitely seemed to be a lot more prepared in terms of answering the myriad of questions and doing an awful lot of research about our town, which I think showed a great amount of dedication thus far.
Anna, Matt, Kathy?
I think Dave has an incredible amount of knowledge and work-related, professional and personal work experience that he can bring to the table. He pointed out some things. I get the impression he already has his shopping list of what he intends to focus on. That he feels needs, I think fixing is too critical, that he thinks needs attention. He feels he can get the bond rating adjusted upward in anticipation of the debt exclusion vote in the fall. He seemed to have a different perspective about the municipal light plant than the direction that initially we appear to be going in. And that's okay because he's lived it from a different inception. But I don't personally feel that the work that this town has done to begin the start to a municipal light plant is incorrect. And I worry that maybe he's just like brimming with things he can get done. And I have a little trepidation about, will that be off-putting to some of our department heads? Or throw any shadow of, they're being intimidated by what he feels is, things that need to get done, even though he makes it clear, and I would take him at his word, that he wants to develop a vision collaboratively and move from there. But so I have just a little gut check on that piece, and it only goes to chemistry and interaction with all of the key players in town hall.
Matt, Anna, Mike? Any thoughts?
I'm still thinking. I'm formulating over here, so I insist.
I want to go back to something that Joan was able to tell us in our most recent executive session where we identified 3 finalists. And she spent a great deal of time explaining to us that when you identify in a vacancy what you're looking for in a candidate. And once you've established that, then you seek applicants that can meet those qualifications or be able to achieve what the objectives are. I was struck by the next statement she made because I had never, in all the years that I was a hirer as a building principal, considered this way. I think it's human nature and we're doing it right now. And I know that it's not necessarily wrong, but I want to make this point. She said, don't fall into the, I want to say trap, but don't trip over trying to compare candidate A to candidate B to candidate C. Look at what you asked for when you put it out to the world, that we need a person to do X, Y, Z. And if that person can check off the boxes, then they've met what you've asked for. No, nobody's going to be the perfect fit. It's never ever of the perfect fit anywhere. All the way up to, the national elections, looking for a president and at any given 4-year cycle. You look for the individual who you feel checks off the boxes and who you feel that you're most comfortable with. And I reflected on that. And even though I'm now retired, I thought back to when I took a principalship here in this town. I apparently checked off all the boxes because I got the job, but I know that I grew as an administrator every day of the school year and summer, because principals don't get summers off, all the way through 20 plus years. And so no matter who we pick, that person who sat here tonight is not going to be that same person to us in 6 months or a year. They're going to grow. And for that reason, I think if I would just like to say to my colleagues, let's just try to follow Joan's cautionary tale there. Who checks off the boxes and who are we comfortable with? The end.
She's a true educator.
Or comedian.
Anna,
So I think that each of those guys, each of those gentlemen, I should say, checks the boxes. I think we honestly can't go wrong with either. I think Tom is invested in the town. He's a townie. And I think his heart and soul is in it. I think Dave is well prepared, has definitely done his homework, and will definitely contribute, to the town's success. So I don't necessarily think we'll go wrong either way. So I guess what I'm going to be basing on is like how I felt while I was interacting with them during the interview, because I don't think we can go wrong either way.
Matt's still thinking. Mike, what are your thoughts?
Well, the contract plays a role to me, the length of the contract. And maybe tonight's not a discussion for the length of the contract, but it would. Who my choice might be. I do think both candidates have checked the boxes off. And obviously the council has to be able to work with the manager moving forward, especially who our officers might be. So it comes back to that level of comfort. So to me, it's a level of comfort and the contract, because I think both interviewed well and both can do the job.
Am I up?
Sure, sure, if you have some thoughts.
Yeah, so I came into this interview pretty skeptical of, I wanted the interviews to happen, but I was skeptical of Mr. Flaherty as an outside candidate. As you know, we're comfortable with Tom, Tom. Tom's sort of a, you know what you're getting when you're hiring him. And so while I, really was actually impressed with Mr. Flaherty, the homework he did, he knew a lot, very knowledgeable guy, especially on the numbers. I was more impressed with him as a candidate than I expected to be, actually. I don't know if that sounds, but it's true.
Fair.
I thought he interviewed really well, but I think I prefer Mr. Christensen as town manager.
So with myself, I go back to when we created the charter. We dumped everything on the town manager. I mean, if you look at our charter, there is a lot that goes on. We didn't expect the town manager to know it all. We also put the caveat that the town manager can delegate some of the authority, whatever portions. And so if they're lacking in one area, it's up to them to find someone, an employee that they can delegate it to that will excel at it. I don't think, as to Joan's point, we're ever going to find someone that checks off every single box perfectly. But I do think we can find someone that will strive and grow into the position and continue to work hard towards it. I think Mr. Flaherty interviewed very well. I liked Tom, believe it or not. I like the fact that he got stuck on my question. Asking someone to give a negative impact is very difficult. You want to forget about anything that's happened negative, and you just want to look at all the positives that's been done. I thought it brought a aura of a realism to the interview. He's not a professional interviewer. I mean, obviously he hasn't interviewed that much, and I thought both of them did a very good job. My thought process here is we have someone within the town that our department heads know, respect. And I think based on a contract, we can keep an eye on things, and I mean, I would be leaning towards Tom. Connor?
Thank you, Rob. I think the only final point I would make is, I think all of those points are well taken from everyone else so far. But I've heard a few times so far that, we have to keep in mind the decorum of town hall and our department heads. And of course, that's true. We don't intentionally want to upset things. But at the same time, as counselors, we're here to represent the public and the residents that live here, not the town department heads exclusively. And so I think for that reason, I personally would lean a bit more towards David, because I think he has a bit more of a broad range of knowledge, especially on the financial aspects that are going to impact this town over the next couple of years.
Anyone else like to add? Would anyone like to make a motion to recommend one of the two finalists?
Sure. I move that we appoint David Flaherty as the town manager of East Long Meadow, contingent upon successful contract negotiations and background check.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion on it? Hearing none, I will call for a vote. Roll call vote. Michael?
So
So the motion's been made to appoint David Flaherty as the next town manager.
I just wanted to clarify, we're voting for him in the affirmative.
In the affirmative.
No,
Connor?
Yes.
Marilyn?
No.
I'm a no. Kathy?
No.
Matt? Anna?
No.
So then I would entertain a motion to appoint or recommend the appointing of Tom Christensen contingent upon successful contract negotiation and background check.
I'll do that. I move to appoint Tom Christensen as the town manager, pending the background check.
Second.
Contract.
In
And
contract
contract.
negotiation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Michael?
yes.
Connor?
No.
Marilyn?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Kathy?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Matt. Anna?
Beat you to it.
Yeah, I slowed down a
Never
little
sure,
bit
you
there.
know?
Sorry.
Yeah, you could-
Can I go? Yes.
Okay, so Joan, I would ask that you reach out to Tom and let him know that, yeah, he's probably watching, that's true. That
No, he's not.
that we have made a motion to appoint him as the next town manager contingent upon contract negotiations, of which does the council want to appoint a subcommittee now to negotiate? How do you want to do that?
We went that route just a year ago, and while it got the job done, I feel that this is now, since the council's inception, the fourth time we have searched for a manager and ready to enter into contract negotiations. I've said this before, the contract itself is predominantly industry boilerplate, except for the pieces that you fill in terms of benefits and salary range and length of contract and contingent upon goals that you mutually agree on. So I think we can get that done in a full session here. I believe we can go into executive session for that, Jeannie?
Right now?
No, not now, but I mean, I knew that. I mean, to discuss terms of a contract.
Yes.
Yes, so,
And then have the president deliver those.
well, once the body agrees, yes.
No,
Yes,
right,
yes.
right, right. rather than have the subcommittee?
Yeah, I would personally shy away from a subcommittee.
Okay,
I would agree with that.
Okay.
so with that being said, we have to set up a executive session.
Our next meeting is the 13th.
Yep.
I used to ask Jeannie this question when I was president, is the agenda long? And she'd say no.
Not
And
yet.
It's
then the
not
next day it blew up.
Yeah.
So we're 2 weeks away, so it's a kind of a moot-ish question to ask, but
Right now, it's not too long.
It's actually very short, but
could
I would do
it
it.
changes.
Just do it.
Could
Do you
we
want to
do
set
an
it up?
executive session even at 5 o'clock before? So that in the event it runs longer, we don't have to look at the clock and say, oh, boy, now we have to do executive.
Early's tough for me.
Oh, okay, understood.
Why don't we work on keeping the agenda short on?
Yeah, we're through budget.
I mean,
cycle
you'll have
now, so
election results. We have a public hearing.
Mhm.
That's pretty much,
If you feel you need time, then you'll have a second meeting in June.
So,
Right. I agree with that.
okay,
okay.
fair enough. We'll do it on the 13th.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So if you would let Tom know that, yes, he's been chosen, that it's going to be a hurry up and wait. And we will meet on the 13th after our regular meeting. We'll go into executive and then I will set up a meeting with him. Work for everyone?
And then in addition to that, if Tom will accept, I hope, and then you'll notify Mr. Flaherty.
Okay, is there anything else this evening? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Wow, that was quick. I'm sure there is no
Speed round.
discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.